What is going on, you guys? Today I am back with another great film, Jupiter Ascending. And the movie opens up with a young woman named Alexa falling in love with a man called Maximilian. Fast forward to a few years later, a pregnant Alexa watches Max as he looks through his beloved telescope. Soon, she interprets his stargazing and tells him that she needs his attention as well. Max happily obliges and begins rubbing lotion on her swollen belly when all of a sudden, a group of robbers break in through their front door. They begin collecting all their valuables, including Max's telescope, and as he tries to stop the robbers from stealing it, they end up shooting him and killing him instantly. Not being able to deal with his death, Alexa cuts all contact with her friends and joins her sisters on a ferry that was headed to the US. She gives birth to her daughter Jupiter in the middle of the ocean, who is born without a father and a new country to call her home. In the present day, Jupiter, who works as a maid for her rich clients, recalls how her aunt had always told her that she was destined for greatness. However, she finds it hard to believe since she's begun to experience how hard life is for immigrants. Meanwhile, on a faraway planet, three siblings meet up on an abandoned planet. The youngest brother, Titus, informs his siblings, Balaam and Kalek, about a planet that their late mother owned called Earth. He asks Balaam, who'd received the planet as part of his inheritance, if he's willing to part with it. Balaam refuses to answer him and he disappears, and back on Earth, Jupiter finds herself stuck in an endless cycle of early mornings and work. As the days go by, she begins to hate her life and the helplessness that she feels as an immigrant. At the same time, the two brothers begin to plot against each other as Titus is more determined than ever to find the reincarnation of their mother, who is said to be living on Earth. This is why he hires a hunter named Cain to look for her, and on the other hand, Balaam also hires 3 bounty hunters to look for their reincarnated mother and kill her. One night, Cain walks into a clinic where he senses that the reincarnated version of the Queen had been earlier. He opens up a file and finds the name Catherine Dunley written on it, and just then, he senses the presence of the bounty hunters and uses his special boots to run out of the clinic. There he manages to easily overpower the 3 hunters and gets away before they catch him. The next morning, Jupiter arrives at Catherine Dunley's house to clean it for her, and before she can leave, Catherine asks her to help her choose an outfit for her date. Jupiter happily agrees and she walks inside Catherine's closet and she hears a strange sound coming from Catherine's room. She peeks outside and finds aliens, also known as keepers, using a strange gun on an unconscious Catherine. This intrigues her and she tries to get a picture when all of a sudden her phone goes off, causing the keepers to jump toward her before everything blacks out. When Jupiter opens her eyes again, she finds that Catherine's memory has been wiped and the keepers are gone. That night, when Jupiter returns home, she asks her boss, who's also her cousin, to give her a loan since she wants to buy a telescope. He refuses to help her, which is why she agrees to sell all her eggs at a fertility clinic, and in the morning, Jupiter goes to the clinic and waits for her turn. Soon she's called inside, but she quickly realizes that something's not right as she's paralyzed and the nurses bring out the same gun that she had seen used on Catherine. As the light on the gun turns blue, the doctor orders the nurse to kill her. However, before they can do that, Cain breaks into the room and kills all of the keepers who are disguised as nurses and doctors. He then carries an unconscious Jupiter away, and when she wakes up, he introduces himself as a lycantant, a crossbreed between a human and a wolf. He then tells her that she's being hunted due to a special gene that she is carrying, and in order to save her, he will have to take her away to his planet. Even though Jupiter is confused at this point, she realizes that she needs to trust Cain if she wants to stay alive. He helps her put on special boots that will help them fly toward his ship, but as soon as they step onto the air, Balaam's bounty hunters launch an attack on Cain's transport ship. Despite the setback, Cain manages to fight off the enemies and take over one of the Keeper's spacecraft. He uses it to get Jupiter away from harm and reveals that all of the planets belong to the 3 siblings, and the one responsible for Earth, Balaam, wants to kill her. They've managed to stay hidden because they wipe everybody's memories, and he reminds her that she doesn't remember taking a picture of the Keepers because her memory was wiped as well. During this, Balaam watches a recorded video of Jupiter when the Keepers were checking her genes just before Kane came inside. He turns toward his commander and threatens to kill him if he doesn't kill Jupiter this time. Back on Earth, Jupiter and Kane drive toward an unknown location. After several hours of driving, they arrive at a house surrounded by beautiful flowers and bees. When she asks Kane who the house belongs to, he tells her that an old friend of his lives there. He knocks on the door and a man named Stinger comes out. As soon as Stinger spots Kane, he punches him and a fight breaks out between the two, and just as Jupiter tries to stop them, the bees start to surround her, causing the two men to stop fighting, and Stinger immediately bows down to her and tells her the bees recognize royalty. When Kane learns that Jupiter is royalty, he leaves the house angrily, leaving Jupiter behind with Stinger. Confused, Jupiter asks Stinger if Kane hates her, but he assures her that Kane means no harm. He begins explaining that Kane had once bitten a royal, and Stinger had taken the blame for him, and as a result, Stinger's wings were chopped off. Just as Jupiter starts to ask for more details, Kane walks into the room and tells her that Balaam has blocked off all entrances to the planet, which is why they're not able to leave without a fight. Stinger continues to tell Jupiter that humans were also aliens who were sent to Earth so that they can get harvested. And just then, Kane announces that the bounty hunters were outside Stinger's house waiting for them, and Stinger immediately takes Jupiter to safety, while Kane stays back to buy them more time as he fights his way through the enemies. However, Stinger and Jupiter don't get far as a shockwave caused by one of the bounty hunter's weapons takes down Stinger. Jupiter leaves him behind and finds herself running through a maze, and once again, she doesn't get far and gets cornered by the bounty hunter, who uses his weapon again, and this time, the shockwave knocks her down. The Keepers immediately surround her and were about to kill her once again when two bounty hunters, Rezo and Ibis, show up and betray the third bounty hunter. They kill all of the Keepers and take an unconscious Jupiter away, and at the last moment, Kane catches up to them and manages to get inside their aircraft before they leave. Sometime later, Jupiter finds herself inside Kalek's palace, and Kalek explains to her that she's the reincarnation of their mother, and the reason why her genes are important is because they need to be harvested to make the siblings live longer. She takes Jupiter to a pool filled with genes and submerges herself in it, and when she comes out, she looks much younger than she did earlier. Kalek tells Jupiter that the single most precious thing in the world is time, and this is what everyone's fighting after. However, the genes have an expiration date, which is why they need to be harvested. Outside the palace, Kane finds his way inside the palace and even takes down several of the guards to get to Jupiter. When he sees her with Kalek, he immediately becomes alert, but Kalek assures him that he doesn't have to worry about her harming Jupiter. Just then, the space police show up and they escort both Jupiter and Kane inside a craft where Stinger was waiting for them. Elsewhere, Balaam murders the commander due to another failed attempt at killing Jupiter, and he then replaces him with a man named Gregan. And back in the spacecraft, overcome with gratitude, Jupiter tries to kiss Kane, but he turns her down by telling her that the two of them don't really belong together. He then helps Jupiter get recognized as an official member of the royalty with the help of a robot called Bob. While the two of them were still distracted, Stinger betrays them and contacts Titus, who takes Jupiter back to his home. There, he shows her several youth portions and claims that they've been using Earth as a farm. He even reveals that his mother had tried to put a stop to this and as a result had been killed. Then out of nowhere, Titus proposes to Jupiter and tells her by marrying each other, they will be making sure that they keep their planets protected and keep the gene harvesting business alive. Jupiter asks him to give her the time to decide, and Titus agrees. Behind her back, he decides to sentence Kane to an execution for his insubordination, and he throws him off the spacecraft, but Kane manages to free his tied-up arms and wears a suit that helps him breathe in space. Meanwhile, Titus also throws Stinger in jail for trying to plead for Kane's life. Back on Earth, Jupiter's family discovers that her cousin is making her sell all her eggs to make money. The whole family gets into a big argument, but all of a sudden, Balaam's new commander appears in front of them and takes them as hostages. At the same time, on Titus's spacecraft, Jupiter begins to question the proposal and asks to see Kane so that he can help her decide. This is when Titus lies to her and tells her that Kane is upset with her and that he's left her all alone. He then proposes that he will let both Kane and Stinger be exonerated if she agrees to marry him, and with no other choice left, Jupiter reluctantly agrees to marry him. During this time, Kane sneaks his way into Stinger's holding cell and asks him why he betrayed him. Stinger confesses that his daughter is sick and that if she dies, he will lose the only good thing that he has left. And as the two men vow to save Jupiter, she prepares to get married to Titus despite her reservations. She begins to exchange vows with Titus, and a ring of ancient letters appears on his finger, and before Jupiter can get the ring as well, the ceremony is interrupted by both Kane and Stinger showing up. Kane reveals that Titus was planning on killing Jupiter, but instead of killing him, she decides to go back home. Once Jupiter gets back home, she discovers that her family is missing and realizes that they've been kidnapped. She also finds Balaam's commander waiting for her, who tells her that she needs to give up her title if she wants to save her family. And as soon as she agrees, they head for Balaam's planet, and on the other hand, when Kane watches as Jupiter leaves for Balaam's planet, he decides to rescue her once again. After encouragement from Stinger, he jumps into a portal leading to a dangerous territory of Balaam's planet, and meanwhile, Balaam threatens to hurt her mother if Jupiter doesn't give up her title. Since she had no other choice left, Jupiter agrees despite her doubts. However, she soon realizes that Balaam is going to harvest her family anyway, and she refuses to step down. Just as Balaam was about to attack her, he's informed about Kane entering his palace. Somehow, during all of this, Kane manages to rescue Jupiter, who ends up kissing him, and then she takes her family away from harm, but Balaam gets in her way again and he tries to kill her on his own. Even though she's distracted, Jupiter still manages to take a gun and shoot him in the leg, and they watch as Balaam's planet begins to collapse due to Kane entering the planet and damaging its atmosphere. He tells Jupiter to put a stop to the destruction, but there was really nothing left for her to do, and he's left with no other choice but to watch as his planet is destroyed. Angry, he attacks Jupiter once again, but since he was injured, she manages to easily overpower him. But she does decide not to kill him and watches as he dies in the explosion that takes over his palace. Jupiter jumps out of the palace's window and begins to fall, but Kane rescues her before she can plummet to her death. He then uses his special boots and flies toward the military spacecraft that brought them to Balaam's planet and gets on it, and the scene changes to Jupiter returning to Earth with her family, with all of her memories intact, while her family's memories get erased. The movie ends with Jupiter finally receiving the telescope that she'd been meaning to buy with the money that she would have gotten from selling her eggs. She even introduces Kane as her boyfriend to her family, who are convinced that she would die alone. What's more is that Kane and Stinger both get their wings back as they're reinstated into the space military once again. And with that, the movie comes to an end.